as a result of a Toni Morrison book. I read an article about a successful African-American businesswoman who read a Toni Morrison book and then took the leap into entrepreneurship. People everywhere are changed after reading Toni Morrison. Though Morrison credited everyone with their own choices, that her works were transformative did not escape her and did not displease her. Chloe Wofford made Toni Morrison of herself. She pursued the highest heights throughout the arc of her experience, staring, glaring, working, peering, writing, imagining. Pencil in hand, she watched her country writhe, be vile, throw up waves of consistent and insistently revived ignorance and hatred. She herself defied derision. She refused to be a victim. This refusal was part of what set her free. Toni Morrison's intense attention to her talent, her genius, set her mind aloft and set her work a sail in the free air. Morrison famously pronounced racism a distraction, a system that forces people to argue about their value or viability, as opposed to focusing on their own lives, their own gifts, their own hopes. Racism sucks energy from human development. Rather than succumb to the distraction of responding to what others thought she or we could not be, Toni Morrison refused to race-splain. Why argue our humanity to obstinate people who are, at their most benign, terrifically unaware? Toni Morrison spent her time on Earth being and becoming and developing who she was, which was genius. Not everyone who faces racism is unvictimized or, like Morrison, unvictimizable. Not everyone can make that decision. You have to have some chops, some cash, some wherewithal to refuse, as she describes it. One of Toni Morrison's key positions was that you work with what you have. She had the goods. Unchecked greed and ruthless oppression combined to deny our presence, our humanity, our capability, and our accomplishments. But Morrison understood these behaviors to be unjustifiable and patently ridiculous, if at the same time painful. She chose consistently to lean into her own legacy, to cultivate her own confidence, to live in the landscape defined by the truth of her strengths, including language, including the strength of her culture. As a young Black girl in America, I was already in Morrison's debt. This I was aware of. Morrison belongs to a rare club of writers who have changed literature, popular culture, and Black women's views of themselves. Like Zora Neale Hurston, Maya Angelou, Paula Marshall, June Jordan. Women and readers of this time, of this era, will elect the change-makers of their time. During her era and mine, Morrison accomplished an enormous tour de force by relentlessly stripping the hegemonic gaze. Morrison made us and our human complexities so visible, in language so eloquent and deep, that the whole of world literature could not deny her innovation and brilliance. When I met Toni Morrison in person, I had been her reader and her cheerleader for dozens of years. Morrison's fame is far-reaching. You can find Toni Morrison quoted here, there, and everywhere. Translations abound. YouTube has scrolls of clips of her. There are articles galore. There are hundreds of published interviews. She talked about writing, she talked about race, she talked about racism, she talked about motherhood, she talked about history and social justice, about who had the problems and what were the salient questions. Her commentary tended to be targeted. Her narratives created characters we can call by their first names, and can remember, and can quote. In some circles, Toni Morrison quotes are flung about like frisbees. If you have readers in your life, it might take you 12 minutes to find somebody who can quote Baby Suge's sermon in the field. Some folk can quote Joe Trace sitting around sorry after he murders his little girlfriend. Women can quote